been a collector of echoes. When a room grows cold, you are the first to notice the drop in temperature. You do not just hear a voice. You hear the tremor behind it, the hesitation that lies in the gaps between words. It is an exhausting kind of magic, is it not? To be so porous that the world simply leaks into you. You were likely told that this was a gift. And in many ways, it is. But they do not tell you about the structural integrity required to hold that much light and that much dark at once. You walk through your days with your skin pulled back, exposing the raw nerves of your empathy to every passing breeze. You care because you cannot imagine a world where you do not. To turn off the tap would feel like a betrayal of your own soul. Yet, the house is flooding. You are standing in knee-deep water, wondering why you are the only one trying to bail it out. It is time to look at the blueprints of your heart and ask if you were meant to be a shelter or a sponge. A shelter provides protection. A sponge simply becomes heavy with the weight of what it absorbs. You have been absorbing far too much for far too long. Think back to the first time you felt the weight of a stranger as sadness. Perhaps you were a child, watching a parent sigh at the kitchen table, or a friend crying on a playground. In those moments, you did not just observe the grief. You adopted it. You made a silent pact with the universe that you would be the one to carry the overflow. This architecture was built on the foundation of a beautiful, yet dangerous, instinct. The belief that pain is manageable if it is shared. But you have forgotten that you are only one person. Your walls were not built to sustain the pressure of an entire ocean. You have been reinforcing the beams and patching the leaks for years. But the structure is groaning under the strain. There is a specific kind of fatigue that comes from living in a house that is always under construction. You are tired of being the one who notices everything. You are tired of the vigilance. You want to know what it feels like to simply exist in a room without scanning for the shadows. You want to know if the world can hold itself up without your constant intervention. It can. It must. There is a quiet arrogance in believing you are the only one who can fix the broken things. It is a soft, well-meaning arrogance. But it is there. You think that if you stop caring, the world will stop spinning, or that person will fall apart, or the situation will dissolve into chaos. You have made yourself the glue in a world that is designed to break and rebuild itself. But you must ask yourself, if you're always the one holding the pieces together, when do those pieces ever learn to stand on their own? By caring too much, you are inadvertently stealing the lessons that belong to others. You're taking their growth and turning it into your burden. You are not the protagonist in every tragedy you witness. Sometimes, you are just a spectator, and that has to be enough. It is a difficult truth to swallow that the world does not actually require your constant vigilance to survive. You are allowed to be a passenger. You are allowed to let the wheels turn without your hands on the steering wheel. The sun will rise even if you do not stay awake all night to make sure it does. We often mistake caring for controlling. We think that if we worry enough, we can influence the outcome of a situation that was never in our hands to begin with. You spend your nights rehearsing conversations for other people, solving problems that they have not even acknowledged yet. You are living 3 lives at once. Your own, the life of the person you are worried about, and the life of the person you think you should be. This is a heavy cross to bear, especially when no one asked you to carry it. When you assume the role of the savior, you create a dynamic where everyone else is the victim. You rob them of their agency, their resilience, and their right to fail. Failure is a teacher, and by standing in the way of it, you are preventing the people you love from finding their own strength. It is an act of love to let someone struggle. It is an act of respect to believe they are capable of surviving their own storms. You are not a god, and you are not a safety net. You are a human being who deserves to be free from the responsibility of saving everyone you meet. Let the pieces fall where they may. You will be surprised at how many of them manage to find their own way back together. Every time you lean into a problem that is not yours, You are spending a currency that you cannot easily earn back. Your emotional energy is a finite resource. It is not an endless well. When you pour it into every cracked vessel you find, you eventually run dry. And what happens then? When the person you truly love or the version of yourself you barely recognize actually needs you, you have nothing left to give. You are a hollowed-out version of a person, a ghost of your own kindness. You have spent your gold on strangers and distant worries, leaving your own heart cold. We live in a culture that celebrates the giver, but it rarely discusses the depleted. There is no nobility in being an empty vessel. You cannot pour from a jar that has been smashed against the floor. You must begin to value your inner peace as a tangible asset. It is not a luxury. It is the foundation of your existence. If you do not protect your peace, no one else will do it for you. They will simply continue to take until there is nothing left but the sound of the wind through your ribs. Consider the economy of your attention. Where is it going? Is it being invested in things that nourish you? Or is it being taxed by the endless demands of a world that is always in crisis? You wake up and check the news, and suddenly your heart rate is tethered to a conflict thousands of miles away. You go to work and absorb the frustration of a colleague, and suddenly your evening is ruined. You are paying for everyone else's peace with your own. This is a debt that you can never fully repay because the world will never stop asking for more. You have to be the one to close the vault. You have to be the one to say, I can afford to care about this much, and no more. This is not about being selfish. It is about being sustainable. If you want to be a person who makes a difference, you have to be a person who survives. You have to keep enough of yourself for yourself. Look at your hands. They were meant to hold a few precious things deeply, not to grasp at everything desperately. Lower your arms. Let the excess fall away. It is okay to be rich in silence and poor in external concerns. Where do you end and the world begin? For you, the line has become blurred. You feel a friend's disappointment as if it were a physical weight in your own chest. You carry a stranger as sadness home with you and let it sit at your dinner table. You have forgotten that your skin is a boundary, not a suggestion. It is okay to witness pain without becoming the pain. It is okay to acknowledge a crisis without moving into it. Imagine, for a moment, that you are standing on a shore watching a ship struggle in the waves. You can call for help. You can throw a life vest. But if you jump into the water and drown alongside them, no one is saved. You serve the world better when you are standing on solid ground. Establishing boundaries is not an act of cruelty. It is an act of preservation. It is saying, I care about you, but I will not disappear into you. It is the realization that your identity is not defined by how much you can endure for the sake of others. You are a person, not a sacrifice. The lack of boundaries is often disguised as extreme empathy, but in reality, it is a loss of self. When you do not know where you end, you become a weather vane for everyone else's emotional climate. If they are angry, you are anxious. If they are sad, you are heavy. You have lost the ability to feel your own emotions because they're constantly being crowded out by the emotions of others. You need to reclaim your territory. You need to build a fence around your soul. This does not mean you stop being kind. It means you stop being a target. It means you recognize that someone else's crisis is not necessarily your emergency. You can offer a hand without offering your entire arm. You can offer an ear without offering your entire mind. There is a sacred space within you that must remain untouched by the chaos of the outside world. It is the room where you go to be alone with yourself. If you have let the door stand open for too long, the dust of the world has settled on everything. It is time to sweep the floor and lock the door. You are allowed to have a private life that is not up for negotiation or consumption. Perhaps you care so much because you are afraid that if you do not, you will be seen as cold. Or perhaps you fear that your value is tied entirely to your utility. If you are not caring, what are you? If you are not the one who listens, who helps? Who stays up late to solve the problem? Do you still matter? This is the lie that empathy tells us when it becomes a shadow. You are afraid that by stepping back, you are becoming less than. But the truth is the opposite. By stepping back, you are becoming whole. You are reclaiming the parts of yourself that you have scattered across the lives of everyone else. You do not have to be a martyr to be a good person. You do not have to bleed to prove that you are alive. The people who truly love you do not want your exhaustion. They want your presence. And you cannot be present when you are spread across a dozen different heartbreaks. It is okay to be too much for some, but you're currently being too little for yourself. We carry this fear that if we stop being the helpful one, we will be forgotten. We worry that our relationships are built on what we do, rather than who we are. So we overperform. We overcare. We make ourselves indispensable so that we can feel safe. But a relationship built on utility is a fragile thing. It is not love. It is a transaction. You are terrified of the silence that will follow if you stop fixing everything. But that silence is exactly where you will find your true self. Who are you when you're not being a bridge for someone else to walk across? Who are you when you're not the shoulder that everyone leans on? You are a person with desires, with hobbies, with a need for rest. You are a person who deserves to be cared for. 2. It is a radical act to stop caring about what others think of your boundaries. If they see your self-preservation as coldness, that is a reflection of their expectations, not your character. You are not a vending machine for emotional support. You are a human being with limits. And those limits are what make you real. There is a specific kind of beauty in the things we choose not to carry. It is an elegance of the soul to look at a mess and decide it is not yours to clean. This is not apathy. It is discernment. Apathy is the inability to feel. Discernment is the wisdom to know when feeling is a waste of your vital spirit. Think of all the things you are currently holding. The political unrest, the family drama, the workplace tension, the old wounds of people who have long since moved on. Now, imagine opening your hands, just for a second. See how the objects do not just fall, they drift. Some of them were never yours to hold in the first place. They were just things you picked up because you thought you had to. Letting go is not a loud, violent act. It is a quiet, internal shift. It is the exhaling of a breath you have been holding for 3 years. It is the permission to walk away from a fire you did not start and have no hope of putting out. When we let go, we are not saying that the situation does not matter. We are saying that our participation in it has reached its limit. There is a profound dignity in admitting that you cannot carry something any further. It is like taking off a heavy winter coat in the middle of a warm room. At first, you feel a bit exposed, a bit lightheaded. You have become so accustomed to the weight that its absence feels like a loss. But then, you realize you can move. You can breathe. Your posture changes. You are no longer hunched over, protecting the burden. You are standing tall, looking at the horizon. There is so much more to see when you're not constantly looking down at your own tired feet. Letting go is an ongoing practice. It is something you have to do every morning when you wake up and every evening before you sleep. You have to consciously decide which stories you are going to inhabit today. Most of them are not yours. Most of them do not need you. Let them be. Let them go. The world will find other ways to heal. And you will find your way back to yourself. What would happen if you took all that fierce, protective energy you give to the world and turned it inward? Imagine if you cared for your own heart with the same intensity you use for others. You would be well rested. You would be nourished. You would be kind to the voice in your head that is constantly criticizing your progress. Your inner garden has been neglected while you were busy weeding everyone else's yard. The soil is parched, and the flowers are wilting. It is time to go home. It is time to pull the weeds of should and must and what will they think. Plant the seeds of I need and I am. When you cultivate your own well-being, you become a different kind of light. You become a steady lamp rather than a flickering match. People will still come to you, but they will come to sit in the warmth of your strength, not to consume the last of your heat. This is the only way to sustain a life of meaning by ensuring the source is cared for. Think of self-care not as a bath or a treat, but as a structural necessity. It is the maintenance of the machine. It is the watering of the roots. If you do not tend to your inner garden, it will eventually turn into a wasteland, and then you will have nothing to offer anyone. You have been treating yourself like a secondary character in your own life. You have been the supporting actor in everyone else's drama. It is time to step into the lead role. This means listening to your body when it says no. This means honoring your need for solitude when the world gets too loud. This means forgiving yourself for not being perfect. You are a living, breathing creature that requires tenderness. You cannot survive on the crumbs of the care you give to others. You need the whole loaf. You need the deep water. Spend time today asking yourself what you actually want, not what would make your partner happy, or your boss, or your parents. What would make you feel safe? What would make you feel alive? Answer those questions with the same devotion you use to solve everyone else's problems. You are worth the effort. We're coming back to the center now. The world is still there, and it is still loud, and it is still breaking in 1,000 different places. That has not changed. But you have. You are learning that your empathy is a tool, not a tether. You can care deeply while also protecting yourself fiercely. You are learning to say that is heavy without immediately trying to lift it. As you move forward, try to notice the physical sensation of caring. When your chest tightens or your shoulders rise, take it as a signal. It is your body asking you to check the weight. You are allowed to live a life that is light. You are allowed to be happy even when others are not. This is not a failure of character. It is a success of humanity. You have done enough. You have been enough. For today, let the world take care of itself. You have a heart to return to, and it has missed you very much. The return is not a destination. It is a direction. It is the choice to keep coming back to your own center every time you find yourself drifting into someone else's orbit. You will fail at this. You will find yourself carrying things again. You will wake up at 3 a.m. worrying about a conversation from 5 years ago. That is okay. The goal is not to be a statue. The goal is to be a person who knows how to put the weight down once they realize they are holding it. Be gentle with yourself as you learn this new way of being. It takes time to unlearn a lifetime of overcaring. It takes courage to be the one who sets the burden down first. But as you do, you will feel a new kind of strength emerging, a strength that is not based on how much you can carry, but on how much you can release. You are becoming a person who is whole, a person who is present, a person who is finally free. Walk slowly. Breathe deeply. You are home.